microphone. Hi everyone, my name is Zoe. I'm one of your mentors for the subject building structures. So welcome to today's session. We will be going to interview some previous students who are also your mentors for this subject. So before we get started, I want to briefly introduce our mentors. So we have 6 mentors for this subject this term, and this is our names and email address. So feel free to email me if you have any questions, email one of us if you have any questions or concerns about this subject. So we all like physics and mathematics, and that's one of the reasons why we all get a pretty good mark. We got HD for this subject last year, this term 3. So yeah, today we have 3 questions that I think most of the students were concerned about. So the first one is, what was your experience with this subject? Also, what topics you find interesting and what suggestions you have for the current students? So all of the mentors will answer each of them and give you some tips or suggestions for this subject for you to do better in your final exam or in the future. So for the first question, what was your experience with this subject? Does anyone want to answer this question?
Yeah, so I would love to go ahead with it. And so first of all, welcome back for the 4th session of our mentoring. So basically, I want to share a lot of experience about this subject. If you could move on to our next slide.
Sure.
So as you guys can see, all the tutorials, I think in my very first video also I mentioned that all the tutorials and the lecture materials, they were very well designed. Of course, by Dr. Samad, he has done a great job. If you have gone through all the tutorials by now, you will see that all these tutorial questions are like, if you do one question, if you go for the second question, you need the first question knowledge when you go and ask the second question. So these tutors were designed in that manner, which were very helpful for me for my final exam. And another thing that's like very positive for me was that all the questions that we came across in the tutorial, they were all calculations. Even for you guys, I can see that I went through your tutorial questions. You all were a lot of calculations, which means you have less things to study or memorize. So a lot of calculations, less theory to memorize. So that's a very positive thing, I think, when you compare with other subjects, maybe. You have less things to study about, less theory to think about, and memorizing, which takes a lot of time, right? But when it comes to this course, it was totally different for me because it's all about calculations. You can take, at least if you take one tutorial, take few minutes or maybe 1 or 2 hours and finish off the work. It doesn't even take much time because you practice one question and then you re-practice again to make sure you are well knowledge with that specific question. And the other thing was that when it comes to your quiz and your individual assignment, in my opinion, these are very easy marks. You all have done your quiz by now. I heard that most of you all have scored average 16 out of 20, which is a really, really good attempt made by you all. Congratulations for you guys on that. And the next hurdle is the individual assignment, which you have already, you all got the assignment 2 weeks ago. And now you guys are working through it to submit this week. This is week 10. So this is like a very easy assignment. If you have participated all the lectures, the revision classes and everything, the feedback sessions, I'm pretty sure your lecturer and Dr. Samad and Dr. Faham, they have gone through your assignment briefly. So if you have listened to all those things will be your answers or the details, the facts that you need to get through your individual assignment. For me, I got 19 out of 20, I remember, for the assignment. So that was all because I participated all the tutorials, which basically focus, the lectures, which basically focus on the assignment, which really helped me out. And so this is like the last few weeks. 27th is your exam. So for these 2 weeks, what I did, which was really interesting for me, was, so there were a lot of tough questions that I also came across throughout the tutorial sessions. So what I did was, I took 1 or 2 days off, did all the tough questions in those 2 days. And in my first video also, I mentioned that you have to think differently, which is the last point of my my part of the video, which is that when you do the questions, even the hard questions, make sure you guys do the questions in a different manner. Like, okay, this is the first process. Okay, how about if we do the question like this?
Definitely.
So something like that.
Yeah.
So I wish you guys all the best for your final exam. We'll be coming up with more videos this week. So thank you very much for the time, and over to you, Zoe.
Yeah, so I totally agree with you. I think sometimes the tutorial question is very important, and it's very important for you to kind of repeat doing the tutorial questions just to answer the questions faster and faster and saves time for your final exam. Also, the quiz and individual assignment is very easy as long as you follow SMART's, kind of what SMART's ask you to do. So does anyone else want to add something? If not, we're going to the second question. What topics you find interesting? So anyone want to answer this question? And I think one of you have this.
I'd like to answer it, please.
Yes. I think this yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk about what are the topics that I find interesting in the subjects. One of them is in week 2 lecture, which is force and vector. One of the reasons that I like building structures and physics in general is because I find it really interesting that you can take a real life situation and translate that into a math equation. You can solve that problem that you see in real life by using math. And I find it interesting that you can use different methods and techniques to find the answer. There's not only one right technique. You can use any methods to get the same answer. So for example, for a real life situation, as you can see in the slide, a sailor is being rescued using a boatswain's chair that is suspended from a pulley. So this diagram, I think you find it familiar because it's from one of your tutorials. You see this picture, that's what you see in real life, but when you translate that into a math equation, you can change it into, you can find this free body diagram on the right. So the weight of the sailor is represented going downwards, which is 900 newtons. And then the forces in both of the pulley from on the right and on the left, you can translate it into different equations as well, which is which I find very fascinating. So how you would solve this question is, first you have to draw the free body diagram, and you need to determine the forces and the directions more clearly. So when you find the directions, you're able to determine whether the figure is a negative or positive figure. And then when you have all the complete information, you can put them in the equation and find whatever you're looking for. And you're able to answer the question with additional information given. Like for example, you can use the 30 degrees, and you can also use the 10-degree one, which is very helpful to find whatever you're gonna find. Yes. Next slide, please.
Yeah.
Okay, so another topic that I find interesting is from week 7 steel structures topic. So specifically what I'm talking about is the stress strain diagram. So as you can see on your right, this stress strain diagram, what it does is it represents the physical property of stress and the strain of a material. So when you use this diagram, you're able to analyze and find out the tensile strength, the stiffness, the breaking strength, and many more. So another thing is, I like how you can take a situation and you have a diagram with numbers to explain that situation. You can explain the steel behavior, and not just steel. You can use any kind of steels, and you can read the diagram and analyze it. So it will benefit your studies, so you can understand it better. I think that's all from me. Does anyone else want to add?
Thank you so much, Nori. Yeah, and I totally agree with you because force and vector is also one of my favorite topics as well. Because sometimes it's not just about the equation or calculation; it's all about your common sense. Because sometimes we learned this equation before, or we already know that, and sometimes the equation are there, but you have to kind of apply that in different questions, in different scenarios, like more complicated scenarios to kind of solve the question step by step. So anyone else want to add something for this question?
Yeah, so I think I would like to add some
Right. Sweet,
some
perfect.
principles.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next, please. Okay. So hello guys. The topic I found interesting and useful for this course is the principle of weight distribution, or you can basically say the load distribution. So for example, in this picture, there are some dead loads and live loads applied to the slab. Then the slab will transfer the loads into the beams, as you can see at number 2, the beams. Then the beams will transfer also the load into the footings, or you can see or in other words, the foundation of the structures. Yeah, I think that's all for me. If you guys have any questions, feel free to email me at my email. Stated it at the beginning. Okay.
That was
I think I'll
individual
pass to Joey.
assignment. Yeah. So individual assignment is also very interesting as well. Like in real life, you may not an civil engineer, but sometimes as a manager, project manager, you also need to know how the load is distributing, and like the basic information or basic knowledge for building structures. So this is trying to help you to solve some problems in the future in real life. And I think that's one of the reasons why Chris liked this topic as well. So let's move on to the next question. What suggestions you have for the current student? Anyone want to give any suggestions for the students to do better in the future?
Yeah, sure. I'll take up this session. Next slide, please. All right, so for the last part of our presentation, I would like to offer some of the advice to you guys. First off, I wish you guys can improve your time management during your final exam. At this point, you should have already taken a few final exams in uni right now. As you might know, that spending most of your time of the exam and questions start taking up more of the percentage of marks will be a very efficient and strategic working out the exam. Although as students who are supposed to understand and solve every question in the exam, but in real life, it's best you save up your time and those more mark valuable questions. Secondly, I will say efficiency in your studying will be another thing that you need to focus on to improve, because improving your efficiency in study is like doing twice the work in half of the time. In that way, you'll save more time in other activities in your study. Maybe you can do a revision on your calculation questions. Moving on, I think it's best for you guys to practice more on your tutorial questions, as we have maybe previously mentioned that the question in the final exam will be having similar difficulty to the tutorial questions, especially if you practice more on tutorial questions who require you to rearrange and combine multiple formulas. Those questions will take in like more than half of the final exam. And if you do more practice on those questions, it will be great for you. And lastly, what from my experience, what I wish I could done better is I can have better preparation before our quizzes rather than do another revision after the result has been released. Although all the quizzes for this subject has already passed, I hope you can take this advice into account for next subject you are doing. And thank you guys. That's my advice for now.
Perfect.
Moving on.
Thank you.
Zoe?
Yeah, thank you, Jess.
Can I add more stuff for what Jess said?
Sure thing.
So my few suggestions are like, it's just 12 more days, or maybe 12 or 13, 12, 11 or 10 more days for your exam. So what I would do is that I would normally think, okay, these are the areas that I need to, need to be good at. So I normally look at those stuff, because what I'm good at will always be, I'll be anyway good at it. So if you have practice, and I'm pretty sure you all have practiced throughout the semester by now, so just make sure that you guys look into your weak areas right now. Okay, so weak areas, if you focus on your weak areas for the first 3-4 days after your final lecture, after you have just give a little focus on that, and then again focus on your strengths, and again focus on your weakness. So if you follow that, you'll be pretty much be confident for your final exam, and I can clearly say that. But whenever you practice your tutorials, like Jess said, make sure you practice in every way that the question that could come for your final exam. Okay, it's not just normal proceedings. Like as an example, if you look at your tutorial, just there will be a specific calculation where you normally have to start from step 1 to step 3, but make sure when you practice, start practicing from step 3 to step 1 also. That's very important, because that's how you might be tricked in the final exam. That is something that I experienced. So I'm not too sure what's going to happen in your final exam this year, but if it's the same thing, this advice will be valid for you all. And also make sure you guys be mentally well for the next few days for the final exam. That's very important. And stay fit, stay healthy. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, one thing I want to add up on is that these suggestions is not just for this subject, but also for when you doing all the other subjects in the future. So as we are taking online exam or online lecture for this term, and probably in the future, so please time management is very important, like Jessie said, because sometimes we might gonna procrastinating for usual assignment, any assignment, or when they in terms to the revision. So please do your work as soon as possible, and yeah, that will be a good mark. So anyone else wanna add something? If no, so we will end this interview session. Thank you all of you guys to kind of answering these questions. It was very helpful, I hope. And yeah, thank you all the students for watching, and good luck with your study.